Lovely to be here. My name is Przemek Obloj. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Blue Horizon, and we are indeed investors in the bioeconomy, but with particular focus on sustainable food. And I'm delighted to be sharing the stage with representatives of different parts of Switzerland, Zurich and Geneva. And both of these guys have been scaling their businesses and helping others scale businesses. So what we wanted to cover today is something slightly different than maybe other panels did. So we're not going to talk about the trouble, the difficulties, the winter is coming stuff. We're going to talk about how you can actually scale your business despite the economic environment being far from benign. So maybe we'll start with intros, and then we have a bunch of questions. Maybe we'll even get one from the audience, although, frankly, we can't actually see you. There's so much light coming this way.
Yes, so my name is Christoph. I'm co-founder at Planted. At Planted, I think we asked ourselves the question, what technology can we find that solves taste, price, environment, and consumer health? And we found for us that the ideal combination is structuring and biotechnology, or fermentation, how you want to call it. And yeah, we're here Zurich-based, so some of you in Switzerland hopefully have seen us, and we're expanding into Germany, Austria, France, Italy, and just starting with the UK now.
Well, thanks for the invitation. Great to be here. Also very happy to be, let's say, in the extended universe of Blue Horizon, who I think is not only a leading investor in the space, but also a thought leader. And it's just great what you do, I think, for the overall industry. As for Planetary, what we're doing is what we call enabling the scaling of this new bioeconomy. So we've heard of companies in the fermentation space, Formo making cheese, Remilk making milk, Mush Labs producing meats from mycelium. We want to be a growth partner and a scaling partner for those companies and really produce the infrastructure at large scale needed to bring those products onto the market and that globally.
Cool. So maybe starting with Chris, to put you on the spot, what do you think you did right when it came to scaling your business? What are the choices you had to, the trade-offs you had to make? And just so that Chris doesn't have to say that they just raised 70 million round and they seem to be on a better trajectory than about anybody in that space in Europe, at least.
Yeah, I think we first asked what product do we want to do. So for us, it's the problem we want to solve is meat. And then we looked at what technology or what combination of technology then actually is the best fit. And that, as said, in price, taste, consumer health, and the environment. And so I think we found a technology between structuring and fermentation that is ultra scalable. And the more you scale it, the lower our production costs and the more tech you can do. So I think one is finding the right technology, and I think then second is execution. So I think we went very focused on particular product platforms, so that we don't do everything, but we're very focused, and that what we do, we scale it as fast as possible. And I think for us, it's ultimately about making a step every day. I think a lot of people see a very long way, and I think if you scale things, you need to take a step every day. If it's painful or not, every day, one step. And I think that's an attitude and not a skill. Yeah.
Cool. So when we look at slightly complex technologies such as precision fermentation, what's your value added? How do you work with other companies? What are the key challenges? There's plenty of great scientists, maybe even in the room, who can work with single-cell organisms, but many of them really struggle to take those from the bench to a factory. How do you help them?
Yeah, so if you look at the range of companies that are out there and you're tiering them a little bit, I mean, there's early stage companies, raised maybe up to, say, $10 million and then, or euros, and then there are mid-stage companies, maybe up to 50, and then there are these large companies in the fermentation space, let's say 100 million plus, and all of them have different needs. We want to be a partner for the mid-stage when bringing products from bench to pilot, right? So we do sort of intermediary sort of growth product or intermediary product production. At the same time, we can also improve a bioprocess in order to increase titers, increase efficiencies for these companies. But then ultimately, our objective is to transfer those relationships into the larger scale production within our sort of fermentation farms that we're now planning the first one actually here in Switzerland, where you will find multiple 250,000 liter bioreactors that will be able to produce those products at scale and at cost, and then ultimately bring them to market. When we look at COGS and the drivers of COGS, you have energy, you have feedstock, you have capital depreciation, and you can only get to unit economics that actually make sense in a food context if you scale up rather than scaling out, and that's what we do.
Maybe just one question on consumers. And we just ran, together with Boston Consulting Group, we ran a survey of over 3,000 consumers. What are the key bottlenecks? What are the key problems that they face in adopting alternative proteins? And we've spoken a lot about price, texture, and taste, but health was another one that came out very prominently. And obviously, if you look at some of those early stage alternative protein products, they had ingredients list that long. So how are you thinking about consumer health?
Yeah, actually for us, I think that was like the market opportunity, as we saw that the early movers did not cover it. Even macronutritional levels like fat, example, were off the charts, so we tried to do it better. And so for us, it was very important when we scale a product like that we are very resourceful. So from the peas, for example, we use the fibers and the proteins, but not the starch. One of the key things that is missing, for example, in a lot of products is vitamin B12. It's one of the essential things you need. Like cows today, they get fed it so that then the people have it. And so we need to also feed it to our process. And so, for example, it turns out you can use starch from the peas to make vitamin B12 through a fermentation process. So for us, it's then very important that we are sort of looking at the product and what the value proposition is with consumers and how we can then use processes to get there as efficient as possible, so that we use every waste stream, every side stream, and are as efficient as possible in delivering on these core values. And consumer health, I think, is one of the absolute key parts of that, and that's why we have no artificial ingredients, no flavors, no nothing, just proteins, fibers, water, and rapeseed oil, and that's it.
Awesome. You get the bonus question. How do you think this industry will look like in 5 years? What do you think will be the layers of this technology?
Yeah, so I mean, in 5 to 10 years, if we believe actually the report you are referencing, BCG Blue Horizon Food for Thought, I think 1 and 2, there are two editions of that. By 2030, I believe you predict in the low scenario that 10% of all alternatives, of all proteins will be sort of non-meat derived. Of that 10%, we believe 30% can easily be attributed through fermentation. And then within the fermentation sort of domain, we believe, and actually across all sort of food domains, that production needs to be regionally, if not locally. Therefore, we believe infrastructure, in our case, needs to be constructed across the globe. And then I think what you said, Chris, is extremely important. How do we now create feedstocks based on sort of media and feedstocks to feed to our cells based on locally occurring sort of carbon sources, either waste streams or sort of plant-based carbon sources. And that's what we're thinking a lot about. How can that sort of international, really global infrastructure layer look like in order to satisfy the market in 5 to 10 years as you're predicting it?
Cool. Final bonus questions here. I live in London. When are you guys going to open in the UK in a major way?
We're actually starting, so we just listed with Planet Organic, so we're slowly growing also based in London, so hopefully you find it in one of your Planet Organic stores or online on our website. You can order it all through Europe.
Well, the UK, Europe, let's see about that. But
hey,
okay.
We're inclusive. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Perfect on time. Swiss punctuality. Thank you.